Right. Buckle up because we've just witnessed a political equivalent of a WWE cage match, except instead of steel chairs, they're throwing Telegraph columns at each other. Liz Truss, yes, that Liz Truss, the woman who lasted short as PM than a head of lettuce, has just gone absolutely nuclear on Kemi Badenoch. And honestly, the audacity is so breathtaking it deserves its own atmospheric warning system. Picture this. You're at a family dinner, and your cousin who once accidentally set the kitchen on fire starts lecturing everyone else about fire safety. That's essentially what we've got here, except the kitchen is a British economy, and the fire was a mini-budget that made mortgage rates go up faster than a SpaceX rocket. But here's where it gets absolutely delicious. Kemi Badenoch, the current Conservative Party leader who's been quietly trying to pretend the Truss era was just a collective fever dream, decided to poke the lettuce. Big mistake. Huge mistake. Because apparently, nobody told her that dormant political volcanoes can still erupt. Now, let's rewind to where the spectacular political soap opera began. Badenoch, in what can only be described as a moment of breathtaking boldness, publicly declared that Keir Starmer and Rachel Reeves were making even bigger mistakes than Truss did with her infamous mini-budget. That's like saying the Titanic's iceberg was worse at navigation than the captain. Technically possible, but spectacularly missing the point. The Conservative leader's critique wasn't just a gentle tap on the shoulder either. She went full economist mode, warning that bond markets are increasingly jittery about current borrowing levels and claiming Labour's economic mismanagement will have real consequences on workers. Bold words from someone leading a party that spent 14 years perfecting the art of economic mismanagement like it was a fine wine. But here's where Badenoch made a fatal error. She forgot the first rule of British politics. Never wake a sleeping Truss. Because our former PM, who's been surprisingly quiet lately, probably busy writing her memoirs titled 49 Days That Shook the World, and not in a good way, decided it was time for some good old-fashioned political revenge. And when I say revenge, I mean Truss didn't just fire back, she launched the entire bloody arsenal. In her Telegraph response, she accused Badenoch of repeating spurious narratives rather than telling the truth about Conservative failures. That political speak for, you're talking absolute rubbish, and we both know it. But wait, it gets better. Truss didn't stop at just offending her mini-budget disaster. Oh no, she went for the full scorched earth approach. She claimed the Tory party would be in serious trouble unless it starts admitting failures over the economy and human rights during its 14-year government stint. The sheer irony of Liz Truss lecturing anyone about admitting failures is so thick you could cut it with a knife and serve it at a political satire dinner party. Then came the absolutely devastating line that had Westminster insiders spitting out their tea. Truss suggested Badenoch was only criticizing her to divert from the real failures of 14 years of Conservative government in which her supporters are particularly implicated. Translation: you're trying to make me the scapegoat when your mates are the ones who actually broke everything. It's like watching someone who crashed their car into a tree blame the entire automotive industry for poor road design. The audacity is so magnificent it's almost artistic. But Truss wasn't finished. Oh no, she was just getting warmed up. She described it as a fatal mistake that the Conservatives didn't repeal Labour legislation, including the Human Rights Act, accusing party modernizers of wanting to be heirs to Blair. Because apparently, in Truss world, the real problem wasn't her economic policies that made the pound weaker than a soggy digestive biscuit. It was that they didn't go full authoritarian fast enough. Then she really went for the jugular, taking aim at Michael Gove and Dominic Cummings, claiming that draconian lockdowns caused huge damage and that the economy was wrecked with profligate COVID spending by then-Chancellor Rishi Sunak. It's like she's playing Conservative Party bingo, except every square is labeled someone else's fault. The cherry on top of this political demolition job, Truss added that the huge increase in immigration has been a disaster. Because when you're already in a hole, why not grab a bigger shovel and keep digging? Now, here's where this gets particularly juicy. Badenoch had previously kept her criticisms of Truss private. You know, like a sensible person trying to avoid political suicide. She'd even told her shadow cabinet back in January that it would be helpful if her predecessor made fewer interventions. That's British understatement at its finest, like saying the Hindenburg had a small technical difficulty. But something clearly snapped, because Badenoch decided to make her first major public criticism of the ex-PM. And boy, did she pick the wrong target for her political debut as a Truss critic. Because Truss came back swinging like a political prizefighter who'd been training in the wilderness for months. She hit back on social media, because of course she did, tweeting that Kemi has not learned the lessons of the mini-budget, which is that when Conservative MPs fail to back tax cuts, fracking, and welfare restraint, they get booted out of office. The absolute brass neck of this statement is breathtaking. It's like someone who drove their car into a river blaming the passengers for not cheering loudly enough during the journey. But Truss wasn't done yet. She doubled down by claiming that the Bank of England has since admitted that 2/3 of the market movement in early 2025 was down to their failure to regulate pensions properly. So now it's the Bank of England's fault too. At this point, Truss has blamed everyone except her pet goldfish for the economic chaos. Then came the final knockout punch. Kemi Badenoch needs to do the work and actually analyze what happened in early 2025 and hold the Bank of England to account. The woman who presided over mortgage rates shooting up faster than a caffeinated kangaroo is now giving homework assignments on economic analysis. You genuinely couldn't make this stuff up. Now, let's not forget the delicious context here. The weeks following Truss's mini-budget saw market reactions so adverse that financial experts were running around like their hair was on fire. Mortgage costs soared higher than a drunk seagull at a seaside chip shop, and the pound got battered worse than fish on a Friday night. But here's my absolute favorite part of this entire saga. At the start of this year, Truss's lawyers, yes, she's got lawyers now, sent a letter to Number 10 claiming that Keir Starmer's assertion that she crashed the economy is defamatory. The sheer audacity. It's like the captain of the Titanic goes trying to sue historians for saying he hit an iceberg. And how did Downing Street respond to this legal threat? With a political equivalent of a shrug emoji. Sir Keir's spokesman basically said, "Yeah, we're not softening our language because, well, ask literally anyone with a mortgage what they think." The spokesman's response was absolutely perfect. You don't have to take it from the Prime Minister. Ask people up and down the country what the impact of previous economic management was on their mortgages, on inflation, and I think you'll get similar answers. That's diplomatic speak for everyone knows you messed up, so good luck with that lawsuit. What makes this entire feud so brilliantly absurd is that we're watching two people argue about who's better at economic management when their party just suffered the worst electoral defeat in modern history. It's like two chefs from a restaurant that got shut down by health inspectors arguing about who makes the better soup. The really tragic part, and by tragic, I mean absolutely hilarious, is that this public spat perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with the Conservative Party right now. Instead of doing some serious soul-searching about how they managed to lose power so spectacularly, they're having a very public argument about who's to blame for their various disasters. Badenoch is trying to position herself as a sensible grown-up who's learned from past mistakes, while Truss is essentially arguing that her mistakes weren't actually mistakes. They were just misunderstood genius moves that everyone else was too stupid to appreciate. It's like watching someone explain that their cooking didn't give everyone food poisoning, everyone else just as weak stomachs. The timing of this fight is absolutely perfect, too. Here's Labour, barely settled into government and already dealing with their own economic challenges, and the Conservatives have decided this is the perfect moment for a very public family row. It's like showing up to your ex's wedding to argue with your relatives about who forgot to bring potato salad to your cousin's barbecue 3 years ago. What's particularly delicious is how this exposes the fault lines within the Conservative Party. You've got the Truss supporters who still believe that if everyone had just believed harder, the mini-budget would have worked like some sort of economic fairy tale. Then you've got the Badenoch camp trying to be the sensible moderates who've learned from past mistakes. Meanwhile, the public is watching this circus thinking, these people want to run the country again. The really beautiful irony here is that both women are essentially right about the other one. Badenoch is correct that Truss's economic policies were a disaster that spooked the markets and hurt ordinary people. And Truss is probably right that Badenoch is trying to scapegoat her to avoid talking about the broader failures of 14 years of Conservative rule. It's like watching two people in a burning building argue about who left the oven on while the fire department stands outside taking notes for their report. But perhaps the most entertaining aspect of this entire saga is how it demonstrates that political grudges in Britain are served colder than a Yorkshire winter morning. Badenoch kept quiet about Truss for months, probably hoping the whole mini-budget thing would just fade into political history. But the moment she decided to make a comparison, Truss came out swinging like she'd been waiting by her computer with a fully loaded Telegraph column ready to fire. And that, my friends, is why British politics is better than any soap opera ever created. You've got betrayal, revenge, public humiliation, and enough dramatic irony to power a small theatre district. Plus, unlike EastEnders, the consequences actually affect real people's mortgages. So there we have it. Liz Truss has indeed brutally destroyed Kemi Badenoch, but not in the way she probably intended. Instead of looking like a wrong former PM setting the record straight, she's come across like someone trying to rewrite history while standing in the smoking crater of their own making. And Badenoch? Well, she's learned the hard lesson that in politics, sometimes it's better to let sleeping disasters lie. Thanks for watching UK Pancakes. If you enjoyed watching this political demolition derby unfold, smash that like button, subscribe for more Westminster chaos, and let me know in the comments who you think came out worse in this spectacular public spat.